Well folks, somewhat surprisingly, patch 1.10 for Jurassic World Evolution 3 has just landed. And that means not only do we get a bunch of quality of life fixes and bug fixes, we're going to go through some of the new stuff in just a moment, but it also means we have a brand new free dinosaur family added to the game. So let's load in our hatchery, let's scroll down a little bit and we should see around the K mark. I've forgotten the alphabet. There we go. We have, of course, our new Kentrosaurus, our new old Kentrosaurus. You know what I mean. So we can take a little look here. You can see we do, in fact, have Kentrosaurus JWE. I think there's a slight mistake there. This should surely be the JWE one, and this should be the default one, I suspect. But we have the Camp Cretaceous skin added to the game as well, which is pretty cool. So we'll go through all those in just a second. Same deal with the male over here, and that's the one that's got the Pierce skin from Camp Cretaceous, as you can see. So we hadn't seen this until now, so very cool that both have returned. We don't have to wait for a Camp Cretaceous DLC or something like that. If we swap back to the default version, it is still largely the case. So we've got a new skin here, which we'll take a look at, but there's actually a lack of sexual dimorphism. I find that a little bit surprising. I guess Kentrosaurus's spikes are so humongous already, but I would have expected maybe a size increase or some description here on the male. On the preview images, I thought it looked bulkier, but it really is identical across the two sexes. So no sexual dimorphism to speak of, which I find quite surprising. And then in our patterns, we've got Rana, we've got Calcarana, we've got Lithobates, we've got Pulcrana, we've got Papyrana, and we've got Pelophylax. All of them pretty subtle, to say the least. Nothing's super colourful and standing out, you would say. I mean, it's hard to always tell in the hatchery. The lighting in the hatchery is dreadful, but yeah, you can get a little burst of colour in there. That's not bad. That's not bad. I think the Death Valley and the Amazon rainforest skins in particular show off the dinosaur quite a bit better. And I'm assuming these were all basically the same as they were last time around as well. I've got to say, in terms of making a beautiful, colourful dinosaur, you are much, much better off with your Camp Cretaceous version compared to your other version. Of course, if you fully randomize, it's very possible to end up with a mixed batch, as I have done here with this one random gigantic Kentrosaurus sticking out. You can see desired population there, just two, so just any pair of Kentros of any sexes will be a perfectly happy bunch of creatures.
Complete. Prepare asset for release.
Fairly low-key as exit animations go.
The name Kentrosaurus supposedly means prickle lizard. Considering it can swing that spiky tail at 30 miles an hour, you'd be lucky to walk away with just a prickle, huh?
You sure would, Cabot. You sure would. Now, it always looks a bit weird having this sort of mixed habitat. I mean, I think you could really justify this as you could have your juvenile Kentrosauruses as the babies, you could have these ones as the kind of mid-sized ones, you know, your teenagers, and then you'd have your adults here. Yeah, morphologically, they're pretty different as well, but it makes for an interesting mixed group. Or you could just completely treat them as two different dinosaurs, of course. Thankfully, their social animation, which we just saw, does not feature any touching across the dinosaurs, so they don't get into any weird animation splices and stuff like that. Now, whilst all this is going on, I can talk about what is the other big addition of today's patch, which is, of course, all those changes to the complexity meter on console. I can't cover that in this video. I'm playing on PC. I don't have access to the game on console. But for my part, what I'm going to do, we're going to hold off a few days. We're going to see what the general public reaction is like. When those of you at home get hold of the game on console, feel free to let me know about this in the comment section down below, or throw me a DM on Twitter or whatever. Let me know, have you seen a demonstrable difference in that complexity meter? How good is the new setting that lets you go above the complexity meter? All that kind of jazz. I'm very curious. Anyways, it's baby time, baby. Oh, it was baby time, baby. I'm always hoping they do the little hop. I'm always hoping for the little hop. So there we go. There is our absolutely heartbreakingly adorable, of course, baby Kentrosaurus immediately beginning to go on a little jog, go on a little sprint as the juveniles are wont to do. They happy, chappy little bouncy babies. They are adorable. It's something about having so many spikes as well, all reduced in size, that makes them extra cute. Go on, buddy. You go. They just look so happy. It's just making them run around constantly is such a good, clever animation choice to really give these animals so much life. Right, so we have, of course, a couple of new animations to check out. As I say, I want to see the animation between the juveniles and between the juveniles and the adults. Nothing new to see here, of course. We're taking the same animation from the last game, but, you know, we'll see it again just for posterity's sake. This is the adult Kentrosaurus to adult Kentrosaurus social animation. I wouldn't try that one, buddy. I think you might, I'm not seeing the advantage on your side, if I'm totally honest. Okay, after many moons of waiting, I think we're finally about to see the juvenile Kentrosaurus social animation. Cute, yeah, sure. It's kind of a logical, I mean, it's not the most exciting one in the world, let's not pretend otherwise. I'm sure it's very difficult to come up with new exciting ones for 25 Stegosaurids at this point in time. But it's a logical sort of juvenile version of what the adults do, that kind of walking by and sort of jumping up and calling at each other. It feels a little bit like just practicing your threat displays to an extent, which I think it's fairly logical behaviour. One more to go. Okay, it took absolutely ages, but we're finally about to see the juvenile to adult Kentrosaurus social animation. So let's hop back to default there. Apologies, you can probably hear a helicopter somewhere. So the juvenile is slowly, maliciously approaching, as you can see. Adult just staring into the void, wondering how their life ended up this way. I think we've all been there at some point in time. Nearly here. They're nearly here, just give them a second. Okay, hopefully I'm in a good view. Here we go. Okay, I mean, I really like this Kentro. I know a lot of people prefer the evolution version, the frontier version, but I think I prefer this version, all told. Either way, that was pretty cute. Yeah, I like that idea that it was kind of like the... It didn't really work because the adult had to wait for so long for the juvenile to appear. If we had a slightly smoother transition, it would have looked better, because it was kind of like the... You know, the juvenile kind of hung back to eat a little bit, or to like sniff the floor and just be super curious about things, as juveniles are want to do. Yes, this is what I was doing. Super curious to see what was going on, and the parent had to look back and call them. It was like, come on, kid, let's get a move on. And then had to do it again. And basically the juvenile's so curious about the world and what's going on that they often get left behind. They've got a few different animations that play out on those same sort of ideas, and I think they're always quite effective. So some of the other changes are to the dinosaur encounter attraction. One of them just makes it happen more often, makes your dinosaurs more likely to use the dinosaur encounter attraction, just like our adorable little baby Kentrosaurus is right now. The other thing is a new animation we're looking for right here. This is a food scattering. This must be terrifying for this Kentrosaurus. We're looking for a food scattering animation where the guests are going to actually throw the food onto the ground. Are you changing your mind? Are you teasing me? You are. You're a little demon, Kentrosaurus. You're a little demon. I think you've missed a shot there, mate. No, just having a sit down. Just absolutely flip-balled. Absolutely everybody here in the encounter. Everybody's sitting here waiting to feed it. And it walks in, does a little loop, and then has a little sit. Not even sleeping, just having a that's the most aggressive lie down I've ever seen in my life. I love it. I think the patch may have done a bit of a number on the dinosaur encounter. Unfortunately, it might need a second little baby patch just to spruce things up. My juvenile Kentrosaurus has walked into the dinosaur encounter and has just stared at them for going on 5 minutes on sped up time. It's really showing no inclination towards doing anything else other than occasionally walking on the spot. Feels like it's kind of stuck inside the dinosaur encounter. So this might be something that needs a little bit of tweaking. I'm going to let it run for a little bit longer, but either way, I don't think it should be. I mean, you can see what's happening. Oh, yeah. See, every now and again it'll run, and then it just keeps going. Stuck in a time loop. So whilst I wait for my Kentros to finally do this bloody social animation, we're going to do a few other things. There's a few new additions that I really like the look of. First of all, we should simply have some new controls listed on the scheme when placing scenery. So I'm going to go to place something fairly normal like a planter. Yeah, as you can see on this right hand side, this has basically doubled in size. The one that's most important is really B, which you can now hold to scale, as you can see. Now you could always do that, but it wasn't mentioned anywhere in game, so really cool that we now can see that for sure. Another one I really like is, for example, I've got a group over here, let's say, no, that's burrito. We've got a group here of building pieces, a group of, roof pieces. Now what you can do is a group edit shortcut when playing with mouse, so it should just be double click. Yep, and there we go, straight into group edit mode. Might not seem like a big deal, but trust me, that one actually saves you a bunch of time fairly often. So every group we have now, okay, I don't have that many groups apparently. Every group, yeah, so we just double click. There you go, straight into group edit mode. Even better would be if, you can see it selects the group, but it'd be nice if it selected the specific item that I double clicked on. So you see if I double click here, it kind of selects the entire group. Already very helpful for sure, but maybe when I double click there, it should also select that item within the group. Again, little tiny quality of life changes that sort of happen throughout time in a game, but would be a helpful little thing all the same. Another cool change, operations. We had Sandbox limits on this for some reason, even though they got rid of them back in Evolution 2. So I've already got an arrival point here. I wouldn't have been able to build another one, or for example, a control center. So let me pop down a control center, and before this patch, I would not have been able to place another control center, but now you can see it still says limit reached 1 out of 1 up there at the top, but nothing stopping me placing another one. Either way, that's now an option. You can keep that off if you want. If you come down to Sandbox settings and you go to gameplay, you'll see operations building limit right there. Whilst we're here in the Sandbox settings, we've got a new one here as well for your juveniles, which is vulnerable juveniles. You can turn that on and off. So even if you've got dinosaur combat turned on, if you want to make sure your juveniles are going to be safe, if they can't be hunted by members of their own species, hunted by members of other species, you can disable vulnerable juveniles, and that way they'll never be hunted no matter what. Or indeed, of course, you can turn it on. So that's a nice new option as well for those of you who want to keep your babies nice and safe. Now, another one that I've personally been quite interested in is the new LODs on foliage. So this is quite a problem for me. If you look down here in particular, you can see a lot of shadow pop in, a lot of foliage pop in this area right here, right? As I move forward, you can see all these little bushes popping in, right? And you'll see it with shadows as well, like with a distance, the shadows sort of popping in and out. It's not so bad here. Let me go make a big ass forest. So the shadows aren't necessarily as bad, but as you can see, as I come forward, you can see this kind of like flickering effect as the LODs change. It's particularly with the undergrowth, right? You can see these little trees here. If you look at the front of the forest there, just where my mouse is right now, and just watch it as I approach, bingo bango. So that's LODs and stuff like that. That's things spawning in from a distance just to kind of keep the processing power a little bit lower. Now they've added a new very high setting to foliage details for those of you playing on sort of higher quality computers, and hopefully it'll be down here in graphics. We can go down to foliage detail. Now high was what it was before. That's what I've been playing on. That was the max previously. So now hopefully we turn on very high. And maybe we'll see, already I think that looks a little bit different. Do we see a difference there? Yeah, there we go. Look at that. There's still a little bit of popping. You can see over here on the right. But I'd say the distance of the pop-in is better than it was. I'm going to stay in this exact position. Observe the tree line. And we're going to swap back to very high. We're going to swap to high, I should say. And yeah, as you can see instantly, all the trees, all the little bushes at the front of the tree line have disappeared. And if we swap back again, back up to foliage decent high, there you go. You can see all the little ones have reappeared, and they will disappear from a distance, which is fair enough, because otherwise it would be pretty crazy, I suspect. But the distance at which they pop in has definitely been rendered a little bit better. And I'm starting to suspect that Kentrosaurus is one of those dinosaurs that really hates having a juvenile to adult social animation. whilst we're waiting on that, I'm going to talk about a couple other changes. So there's a few cohabitation ones. Suchomimus and Baryonyx can now cohabitate. Lystrosaurus and Therizinosaurus can now cohabitate. Resolved issue where Pachycephalosaurus juveniles have no eyes. That is terrifying. Thankfully not one I'd noticed, but that sounds absolutely horrifying. Adjusted number of Dreadnoughtus that can hatch at one time. Again, I'd like to see, just give me numbers, you know, was it 1 to 2 and now it's 3 to 4, you know, just give me solid numbers. I don't need to see adjusted, give me actual data. Updated Psittacosaurus family category to Ceratopsid. Obviously should have already been there, but that's just a little fixer. And thankfully, the very last patch note is the one that's been haunting me personally for the longest time. That's resolved time of day changing unexpectedly when entering capture mode. So there was a bit of a bug where, let's say I hopped in here and I went on to nighttime and I hit escape, my game would render in nighttime. And I know a lot of you have dealt with this, in particular on the campaign maps. I think Las Vegas, a lot of people bumped up against this because you changed the time of day quite a lot in capture mode in that map. And it would lock your time of day to your capture mode time of day. But now, as you can see, I can flick between the two with absolutely no problem whatsoever. Nothing gets locked, nothing gets stuck. That's going to make capture mode far less annoying to use during the campaign. I got really paranoid. I refused to use capture mode during the campaign because it would keep locking my time of day. That's clearly no longer an issue. Really positive change. And very glad that bug has been fixed because that's the one that was annoying me basically more than any other. Someone can correct me if this isn't a change, but I believe this is new as well. I don't think this was mentioned in the patch notes, but a little quality of life thing. If we open up the hatchery over here, go to Sim-Size Dinosaur, and let's say we want to make a Kentrosaurus. So we search Kentrosaurus, okay? We've got our Kentrosaurus there. And now we can go modify, blah, 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 do our usual things, save and exit. Now, first of all, I'm pretty sure that usually when you do that, it kicks you away from your search term. It would kick you back to the default hatchery once you've edited genomes, and you then have to go search Kentrosaurus yet again. But not only that, if I now quit out of the hatchery altogether and actually go over to a different hatchery over here, click Sim-Size Dinosaur, as you can see, Kentrosaurus has remained as the search term. Might not seem like a big deal, but I promise it's very irritating when you're trying to do a certain dinosaur, you're trying to breed a certain something, and it keeps kicking you back to the main screen. So now it's just persistent. And if I click off there and then go back to the other hatchery again, it should indeed just be back on the main screen. So from now on, it will keep your search bar active basically until you disable it yourself. Nice little change for sure. But folks, that is basically it. So that's the major stuff of the patch. Of course, I still want to cover that, the complexity meter and all that kind of jazz, but that's going to take a little bit longer. I want to give that a few days at least to see exactly what is going on. But I like the LOD changes. I think those are positive. I like the new key that we've got. I think that's positive. Of course, Kentrosaurus being back in is... it's fine. Yeah, if you're a Kentro fan, I'm sure you're dead happy. If you're not a Kentro fan, you're probably a bit meh. I think it looks good. I don't have much to add to that. I think the lack of sexual dimorphism I find quite surprising and a little bit disappointing, but beyond that, that's all good stuff. And the quality, there's a few good quality of life changes and bug fixes in there that should make the game a little bit better as well. We shall see what else is on the way. Of course, there is a DLC in development, probably going to land in about a month if I had to guess, probably about mid-December. We'll talk about that more in the build-up to that and when it gets announced and stuff like that. So thank you very much for joining me. Let me know what you think about the patch down below, and I'll see you lovely folks very, very soon. Cheers much love as always. Bye-bye.